Does your team Theorycraft team comps to pick up champs? Or pick up champs and Theorycraft team comp? They're not mutually exclusive. Like to get team comps, you have to weigh the strengths of specific champions. Usually, you focus a team comp around a couple key champions, one or two or three, very very core key champions. You build three supporting champions to support the cast, and you have a pretty clear understanding of how that that team comp works. And so, I'm trying to figure out how to visualize this better. I really don't want to go back to, like, using my cell phones and shit like that. Like that's no good. And I can't really write, can't really draw either. But okay, like certain team comps. Let's say you want to run a comp around. Usually you start with an idea, and you're like, okay, I want to run around a comp where you get an AD carry fed, and you protect him so that he doesn't die. And you're like, okay, so what can do that really well? You have, what's a strong AD carry that scales really well from like mid to late and can farm at pretty much any circumstance? You have Kog'Maw. It's pretty much the ideal carry in this situation because he has long range and he's very good at being able to farm at any instance after level 6. The problem with Kog'Maw is he's immobile, so you want to pick up stuff that helps his mobility and helps him heal. So what do you pick with Kog'Maw? You think and you're like, okay, with a Kog'Maw, I want another specific champion. I want a champion that lets us set up positioning. So a lot of Kog'Maw teams will also pick Morgana, because Morgana lets you set up, protect the Kog'Maw, and set up team fights at your like way, in the position that you want. Like she brings a lot of team fight control. Morgana does not have much damage, but the damage that Morgana is missing comes from Kog'Maw. So you take weaknesses of some champs and supplement them with other champions in a good team comp. And after that, you think to yourself, well, what do I want to do with this team comp as well? I want to keep people off of Kog'Maw. What kind of support do I want to run? Do I want to run a utility support that increases more damage, stops closing champions? Or do I want to run like a support that is more defensive instead of aggressive? And so that's the choice where you choose between Nunu and Janna in terms of what you can lane with and what the potential threats are on the other team. So right now you have a mid lane, you have a bottom lane pretty much planned out, and you have issues now. You're like, okay, how do I set up Morgana? How do I keep people still for Morgana to be able to initiate well? Usually initiation works best when you have 2 or 3 initiation abilities back to back. So every initiation ability is better as a follow-up. The only exception to that, or the exceptions to that, are very, very important to keep track of. An exception to that, an initiation ability by itself that does not need a follow-up is Ash Arrow. That's why Ash is considered to be very, very strong, because her initiation ability requires no kind of, like, it's not a follow-up ability, it's a straight-up initiation ability. It can follow up, but its key facet is that it initiates better than anything else, pretty much, at a map-wide range. But you can't run Ash, because you already have an AD carry, and you don't want to run Ash top, because you don't want to lose the game top, because you don't want to forfeit your top lane. So you throw away Ash, and you're just like, how do I immobilize the other team to take advantage of Morgana and Kog'Maw, and Morgana and Kog'Maw, either Janna or Nunu? Let's just use Janna in this instance. And so we get back to, what does our jungler want to be? Do you want a jungler that has the ability to dive their back line while you protect your back line with your support? Or do you want a utility that just protects your back line with them? And the weaknesses of this are that if you take too many defensive abilities, you can get outpoked by certain team comps. So you need divers in some instances. But let's just say that they don't have pokers, and you're looking to just run a defensive team comp. So you pick up Janet Cog, and you have Morgana, and all they can do to win team fights is dive on your Cog and kill them. And so if you're looking for a pure protection strategy, a good jungler to think about is Trundle. Trundle gives you solid, very very solid, like able to front line. It gives you a very very good pillar. Pillar's really really good at keeping stuff immobilized and setting up both defensive and offensive ability for your team. And he also brings in like pretty good damage, whether it be like melee damage. So sorry, my queue time's at 10 minutes. We have those 4 champions. So you map out those 4, and then your top lane, you have to realize, like, what do you think you're missing? Like, what happens if they try to do a better backline than yours? Let's say their backline kills your front line faster. You have to be able to get something to drag in their backline to you, or something that commits. Like, maybe their backline has lower range than yours. You don't have to worry about that. If you have lower range, Cog can shoot their backline as soon as he's done with the front line. So if they have like a champion like Vayne, you have to commit with the champion like Vayne eventually into Kog'Maw. Whereas if they have a champion like Caitlyn or Ezreal, committing is kind of non-existent. The two backlines kind of fight each other out and then like clean up whatever's left. But let's say you want to drag in their backline to you. We used to run a strategy with Kog'Maw where instead of Morgana we used Heimerdinger for faster dragons. And during one game against TSM, we decided to use Scarra top, back when the mana cost of Q wasn't that large. And Scarra was our backline dragger. We went away to force fights into Trundle and Heimer and Cog. And what did we use? We used Scarra top. We forced fights by dragging like Chaos, dragging anyone out of position into our Kog'Maw and immediately crushing them. But that's not viable anymore. So we look at like what's possible to drag in their backline currently right now, and we're already moving away from divers. We don't want stuff that dives their backline and tries to kill their AD carry, because that's a little bit risky, and we're looking at what happens if they just dive us. So the perfectly defensive setting, what can we run top lane? Well, you can run Cho'Gath. He's very very good at disrupting both the backline, front line, very good tank, very good front line, very large hitboxes to be able to soak up stuff for Kog'Maw. But he doesn't bring in much damage. So with that in mind, like, you really all in if you pick someone like Cho'Gath. Whereas, let's look at another top. Like another interesting top would be something like Shen. And in there we have the absolutely perfect defensive team, or a pretty perfect defensive team. With Shen, you have someone that can reach the back line and bring them, immobilize them so that you can get to it. You have someone that can pick off their front line, something that can disrupt their diving, so their front line, and something that can protect Kog'Maw all in the same go. So with that in mind, I just made a team comp of protect the AD carry that probably is viable against every team comp that's not a poking team. And against a poking team, you might want to pick harder divers. But even against the poking team, the team comp that I made probably would do extremely well. Now look how we would want to dissect a team comp like that. Like, how would you want to beat a team comp if you don't have poke? So you look at a team comp, the easiest way you can think off the top of your head, ban stuff. You ban Janna, ban Shen, the team comp is destroyed. But maybe that's not an option. Like, maybe you can't ban Janna, or you can't ban Shen. You just don't have any bans left because they have bigger threats through other lanes. So you want to know, like, how do I keep them down? And the easiest way to keep down and protect the AD carry strategy is to keep down the AD carry. So what you do during that strategy, you put a lot of pressure bottom lane, and the ideal pick during that situation would be probably TF. You force TF into Morgana. Morgana can't really straight up kill the middle without help from the jungle, and Trundle's not really a good ganking jungler. So you look just to pressure mid with TF, shove the lane till 6, and when you hit 6, do a 4-man dive against Kog'Maw bottom. And that's when, like, if you just dive with 4 people, you pick very heavy ganking stuff like Lee Sin, stuff like Nocturne, stuff that can dive. Double global, very strong. You dissect their lanes before they get into team fights. Um, and their team fight will then be too weak to be able to actually approach you. And TF also brings the added ability to be able to poke. And I tried to keep like poking away from how to dissect that, but I'm just saying like TF would be a very strong way to keep that kind of strategy on the down low.